There is an old saying that goes, "The tongue has no bones, but it is strong enough to break a heart." We often spend more time regretting the things we said than the things we left unsaid. In a fit of anger, a single, cruel sentence can tear apart a relationship that took decades to build. It leaves an invisible tear in the listener's soul, a tear that no doctor can stitch back together. But imagine for a moment. Imagine if there was a strange little shop hidden in the mist. A place with a tailor who didn't mend clothes, but specialized in mending the tears caused by words. He could retrieve your cruel sentence, erase the painful memory, and return your relationship to its pristine state. It sounds like a miracle, doesn't it? But as you know, every miracle comes with a price. And the price this tailor pays is far more expensive than gold, far more precious than diamonds. Come with me into the foggy alleyways of the city of regret to meet Elias, the man who traded his youth to swallow the bitter words of the world. In the rain-soaked city of Ethelgard, in a corner where the streetlights never quite reach, stood a small tailor shop with no sign. The door was always closed, and the only sound was the wind chime that tinkled like a sigh whenever a desperate soul arrived. The master of this shop was Elias. At first glance, Elias looked like a young man, perhaps 25. He had hair as black as raven feathers, skin as smooth as porcelain, and eyes the color of amber. His hands were long, elegant, and moved with the grace of a concert pianist. But if you looked closely, really closely into the depths of Elias's eyes, you would see an ancient weariness. It was not the gaze of a young man, but the gaze of someone who had lived 1,000 lifetimes and witnessed every tragedy humanity had to offer. Elias's work was unique. His customers did not bring him silk or velvet. They brought him invisible fabrics. They brought him their tattered relationships. One stormy night, the bell rang. A middle-aged man stumbled in, soaked to the bone, his face twisted in agony. He was a wealthy merchant, but his eyes were red and wild. "Save me, please, save me," he stammered, his voice breaking. "I have killed my wife's spirit." Elias calmly poured a cup of tea and signaled for the man to sit. "Tell me, or better yet, show me the tear." The man trembled as he spoke. In a drunken rage of jealousy, he had hurled the most venomous insults at his loyal wife. He had called her a useless burden, a mistake. Those words had acted like acid, instantly dissolving the love she held for him. By morning, she was gone, leaving behind divorce papers and a look of dead hope. Elias nodded. He held his hands out in the empty air. "Give me your hands." When the man placed his trembling hands into Elias's, a faint, ghostly light appeared. Between them materialized an invisible fabric, the physical manifestation of the marriage. The beautiful tapestry was torn down the middle, the edges charred black as if burned by hellfire. "Words of fire," Elias whispered. "You burned her dignity to ash." "Can you patch it? I will pay any price," the merchant begged. "I do not take money," Elias replied coldly. "I take time." To the customer's astonishment, Elias pulled a silver needle and a spool of glowing blue thread from his breast pocket, the color of oblivion and forgiveness. He began to sew. With every stitch Elias drove into the air, his own body convulsed in pain. He wasn't just sewing fabric. He was inhaling the toxicity of those words into his own body. He had to feel the wife's heartbreak. He had to swallow the husband's rage. Snip, pull, snip. The eerie sound of the needle echoed in the silence. Gradually, the charred edges vanished. The tapestry knit itself back together, smooth and flawless, as if the fight had never happened. The memory of that horrific night was pulled from the timeline, replaced by peace. When Elias cut the final thread, the merchant wept with relief. He felt the crushing weight lift from his chest. He thanked the tailor profusely and ran home to his wife, who was now sleeping soundly, the trauma of yesterday completely erased from her mind. But in the shop, as soon as the door clicked shut, Elias collapsed to the floor. He coughed violently, his chest heaving. He crawled to a large mirror. In the reflection, a lock of his jet-black hair had turned stark white. Deep wrinkles had carved themselves around his eyes. His elegant hands were now veined and trembling. In just 30 minutes of mending one sentence, Elias had aged 5 years. That was his curse and his mission. He paid for human cruelty with his own life force. Day by day, Elias's shop received all kinds of people. There was a mother who had screamed at her teenage son, "I wish I had never given birth to you!" A deep, bleeding gash in the fabric of motherhood. Elias mended it. The price was his eyesight dimming and his back beginning to hunch. There were 2 best friends who, over a business dispute, called each other liars and thieves. The fabric of friendship was shredded like old rags. Elias mended it. The price was his hands developing tremors and age spots appearing on his skin. People whispered about the young god on Forgotten Street, but they didn't know the god was dying a little more every day. Why did Elias do it? The answer lay in an old photograph hidden at the bottom of his sewing kit. It showed a teenage Elias, laughing brightly next to a girl with chestnut hair. That was Lena, his first love and his greatest regret. Years ago, they were young and reckless. In a jealous argument, Elias had shouted a cruel sentence. "Get out of my sight! I never want to see you again!" Lena had run away in tears, and that was the last time he saw her. She was struck by a carriage at the intersection just moments after leaving his house. The last words she ever heard from the person she loved most were words of rejection. Elias had begged the god of time for a chance to atone. The god could not bring the dead back to life, but he gave Elias the silver needle and the thread of oblivion. You will live to fix the mistakes of others until you yourself fade into nothingness. Every word you mend is a piece of your life you must give up. Elias accepted. He wanted a world where fewer people had to live with the agony of regret that he carried. Winter came early that year. Elias's shop was colder than ever. Elias now looked like an 80-year-old man, though only a few years had passed since he opened the shop. His hair was entirely white, his skin like parchment, and he walked with a cane. He told himself, "It is almost over. I don't have the strength to mend anything else." But on Christmas Eve, the bell rang frantically. A young girl, barely 18, burst into the shop. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe, her mascara running down her face. "Sir, help me. Save my mom." Elias looked up with difficulty. "I am closed, child." "No, you have to help me." The girl fell to her knees, grasping Elias's skeletal hand. "My mom is dying in the hospital. She has cancer. The doctors say she won't make it through the night. But earlier tonight..." The girl choked on a sob. "Earlier tonight, I fought with her. I screamed that she was a terrible mother, that I wished she would just die and leave me alone. I didn't mean it. I was just so stressed. I don't want her to leave with those words as her last memory. I don't want to live the rest of my life in hell." Elias looked at the girl. He saw himself. He saw the desperation, the absolute regret of a soul realizing that time had run out. He looked down at his trembling hands. He knew his life force was measured in hours. If he performed this mending, a mend involving the boundary of life and death, he would die. "Go home, child," Elias whispered. "I have no strength left." "I beg you." The girl bowed her head to the floor. "I will do anything. I don't want my mom to die in tears." In the silence, Elias heard the ticking of the clock. He looked at Lena's photo in the box. He remembered the pain in her eyes that day. If only, back then, there had been a tailor to help him. Elias sighed. It sounded like the wheezing of old bellows. "All right, give me your hands." The fabric appeared. It wasn't just torn, it was disintegrating. The daughter's words were a fatal stab to the dying mother's heart. The fabric was gray, surrounded by the aura of death. Elias picked up the silver needle. This time, it felt as heavy as a mountain. He began to sew. The first stitch. Elias's heart seized in agony. The second stitch. Blood began to trickle from his nose. The third stitch. His hair fell in clumps to the floor. He was pouring his final drop of life to secure peace for two strangers. He swallowed the girl's insolence. He swallowed the mother's pain. "Just a little more," Elias murmured. As the final stitch closed the tear, a brilliant golden light radiated from the fabric. The painful memory vanished, replaced by an image of the mother smiling, holding her daughter's hand. The girl gasped. She felt the shift. "Thank you. Oh, thank you so much." She bowed in gratitude and rushed out the door, running toward the hospital, where she would arrive just in time to say her final words of love. In the tailor shop, no one answered her. The armchair was empty. On the floor, there remained only a pile of old clothes, a silver needle snapped in two, and an empty spool of thread. The tailor named Elias had vanished into the void, like a wisp of smoke, leaving the world a peace for which it would never know the cost. My dear friend, the story of Elias has ended, and that shop in the mist likely no longer exists on any map. But in this real life, there is no Elias. There is no silver needle that can stitch back the words you have spoken. There is no magic that can erase the scars in another person's heart. Every time you are about to say something cruel to someone, whether it is an enemy or the person you love most, remember the image of the old tailor trembling with every stitch. Remember this: words are like nails driven into a wooden fence. You can pull the nails out, you can apologize 1,000 times, but the holes in the wood will remain there forever. Do not let a moment of anger steal the youth of your relationships. Do not wait until someone is gone forever to wish you could find a tailor of memories. Taste your words before you spit them out. Learn to be silent when the anger rises. And use your words to stitch love together, not to tear souls apart. Thank you for listening. Wishing you a peaceful night, and may you be gentle with the words on your lips.